The High Republic era for most Star Wars fans is being introduced in the Acolyte TV show, and one of the more interesting aspects about this era and the show is the droids of the High Republic. Where battle droids haven't risen to power, astromechs and protocol droids are luxury and rare, and droids are still prototypes during this era and time in Star Wars. So in this video, we're going to explore droids in the High Republic era. And so far we've seen a couple, but this era isn't exactly droid heavy as the Clone Wars or the Galactic Civil War, but Ozha works as a mechanic, a human mechanic working on starships for jobs that are typically done by astromechs. And I think it's interesting that mechanics still need a droid to complete those tasks. And Ozha's companion is Pip, a repair and communication droid. And Pip's utility is suited for a wide range of purposes, from welding, fire extinguishers, shipboard diagnostics, basic communications, and a flashlight. Unlike other droids we have seen, Pip folds up small enough to fit in a pocket like a data pad and can't move without a user. So basically Pip makes humans able to complete tasks that astromechs would do. And we haven't actually seen any astromechs so far in the High Republic era, showing us that in this era the world is less dependent on droids for basic functions and still relies on humans or sentient species. And then aboard the Palwick prison ship, we get introduced to two different types of droids, the Warden droid and the pilot droids. Now, the Warden droid acts as the muscle and authority aboard the Republic prison ship, providing some intimidating stature but no weapons. He gets taken down pretty easily and overall looks very clunky in comparison to other droids, and the Warden droid appears to be the inspiration or continuation of the N5 security droid we see in The Mandalorian when they pull off their prison ship breakout. In the M5 compared to the Warden droid, the N5 has much smoother mechanics and overall movement, alongside with being armed with blasters, and they're not so easily taken down as they even gave Din Djarin and his team a run for their money. But aboard the Palwick High Republic prison ship, we also get to see chair droids, a version of pilot droids, autonomously flying the ship. And this isn't something new, but what is that they fold down into chairs, indicating a human pilot or sentient species would typically be flying the ship, or at least it's there as an option. This again shows us that the High Republic is less droid dependent during this time in the galaxy. What is interesting is that during the Mandalorian prison ship heist, the crew has to get security codes from a human on board, and in the High Republic it looks like on the prison ships, they were completely ran by the Warden droids having the security codes, showing us that humans still had their functions when droids typically replaced them, like in the case on prison ships. And in Jedi Survivor, the video game, Cal Kestis awakens ZN-A4, or Z, a protocol droid from the High Republic, and appearing to be a bit more clunky like the Warden droid in movement and design, but she is reliable as she's still working hundreds of years later. And she was a droid used by the Jedi during the Age of Exploration during the High Republic, traveling to new and uncharted planets. And her duties included cataloging data disks and collecting star maps. So less so for protection or communication. In other words, it took droids like Z to collect and analyze data across the galaxy so that future droids like C-3PO could have a databank of knowledges and languages to speak in just about every species and planet within the galaxy. Another droid from the High Republic era is Huyang. Similar to Z, the droid assisted in the Jedi knowledge collection, but Huyang also specialized in Jedi training and lightsaber building. He's actually much older than the High Republic and most likely has had a couple upgrades since then, and that's why he doesn't look as clunky as other High Republic droids, but his tasks were similar to Z, collecting data for future generations. And with him being so old, he is one of the only droids that has seen the data collection and participated in it, and was able to see the utility and functions of that data collection being practiced across the galaxy in other droids, like in the Clone Wars and Imperial era and beyond. But honestly, no one really knows how old Huyang is, but he is built to last. Other droids that might predate or coexist in the High Republic are Zephonian droids. In Jedi Fallen Order on Zepho, we can see Tomb Guardians, which were ancient automatons created by Zephonians for guardianship and protection. Similar to High Republic droids, they are still very clunky but very dangerous. In the Bad Batch, we can see a Zephonian walker in use, showing off a far greater power and size in comparison to other droids during the High Republic. And again, we don't actually know how old Zephonian droids are or when they were created, but they definitely at least predate or were built during the High Republic era. And again, we really haven't seen too many droids from the High Republic era in comparison to Star Wars, the Clone Wars, and the Imperial era, again showing us how much more reliant they are for human and sentient species for labor and work. During the High Republic era, droids are just now replacing humans in dangerous lines of work. Even take a look at a character like Basil, who is a tracker being employed by the Jedi. Now, the Jedi employed plenty of local species and guides on planets, but in the Imperial or Clone Wars era, Basil would be replaced with a probe droid or expedition droids, not for tracking needs. Instead of Basil screaming when he found something, a droid would communicate its locations, finding them instantly, and it could transmit from close by, far away, or even on distant planets. And the Eex comm droids were some of the first droids being used by the High Republic and the Jedi Order. Very unreliable during their time for travel and communication, and their defense was not up to par in comparison to Imperial probe droids, and most of the Eex droids that got deployed went missing or never returned or even transmitted data. And T9 was a cam droid for the GoNet during the High Republic era, filming events on distant planets for research and entertainment. The types of droids we see in the High Republic show us what the galaxy looks like during exploration, data collection, new planets, species, languages, are all abundant in the High Republic. The droids in the High Republic simply couldn't keep up, or they couldn't outmatch their sentient counterparts. And even in the High Republic novels, droid technology just was coming into its own. With the galaxy being mapped, most pilots didn't have droid companions for repairs or security, but had a crew of different species from across the galaxy. And droids during the High Republic were still looked at as unreliable to carry blasters for a variety of reasons, so security was better off in a gunman. And droids during the High Republic again were more like prototypes than what we see in typical Star Wars. KL-03 or KL was an admin unit and protocol droid owned by the former Jedi Ty York, again assisting in data collection, and the Jedi Ty York didn't even bother naming him, as droids to him were just a machine. He also had R0VR, also known as Rover. In this case, the Jedi Ty York didn't have a crew for his ships, so instead he used droids. He did have an astromech, but again they were very limited in what they could do in repair during the High Republic era. And scav droids were a type of droid utilized by the Nihil organization, tearing apart ships like buzz droids. And scav droids were more or less the prototype for buzz droids, being upgraded with better tools and programming as Star Wars went on. M227, nicknamed M2, was a security droid owned by the pilot Silvestri Yarlo during the High Republic era and serving on Yarro's ship. Again looking more clunky like the Warden droid, he was a very compromised droid with an outdated speech box which hasn't been updated in years, showing us what upgrades looked like during the High Republic era, and the droid's movements were still very slow, similar to those of an elderly being. Again, this is early droid technology. We also get to see a Shattered Moon High Republic droid worker during Jedi Fallen Order, giving us early looks at what protocol droids look like. And the Nihil also employed kill droids, which were a model of sentry droid utilized by the Nihil group, and their bodies were studded with spikes and crushing arm blows. But because of this, they didn't need weapons or simply couldn't wield weapons at the time, so droid weaponry was attached to their actual bodies rather than them carrying a weapon. But by the time of the Clone Wars, the droids were fully unleashed, and in some way the High Republic era shows us the evolution of droids within the Star Wars galaxy, and going forward to the Clone Wars era, Imperial era, and beyond. So with that is what some High Republic droids look like. Comment down below if I missed any or if there are more droids that I missed. And again, the Acolyte is still an ongoing TV show, so I do hope we get to see more droids within the High Republic era. So with that, subscribe if you would like, comment down below, and until next video, goodbye.